had I known about keto and carnivore, had I been aware of the damage that grains can do to a person's body, had I been aware of that when she was young, everything would have been different. We would
Mhm.
have given her much different food. We would have been aware. We wouldn't have caused her so much pain before she had been diagnosed with celiac. The fact that so many kids grow up with a lot of stomach issues, a lot of physical issues because of the standard American diet makes me mad, makes me angry.
Hello, everybody. I'm Adam with Carnivore Today, and we have a very special guest today, Rabbi Evan Moffic. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your journey. For those that are not familiar with you, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Adam. I have loved your channel from when I started, when I became a carnivore, or a little after I became a carnivore, and have just loved seeing the stories and getting to know you. And my story is somewhat similar to others, but it really began with my daughter. My daughter had a lot of digestive issues, and a few years ago, she was diagnosed with celiac. And
Mm,
we realized how her diet had caused her so much pain and harm. We'd been giving her grains, we'd been giving her the standard American diet, and I realized it had really been harmful. And so opening the door, changing our eating lifestyle at home opened the door for me to look at alternative ways of eating. And I, like my daughter, had always had stomach pain. I didn't have celiac, but I'd always had stomach issues. From the time I was in middle school, my stomach hurt. And some doctor said, "Oh, maybe you have mild IBS." I got a colonoscopy, didn't turn up anything. They said, "Oh, you should try the Mediterranean diet." Nothing worked, nothing helped. And I'd kind of come to the conclusion that I would just live with it, like many people do. You live with chronic pain. Um,
mm,
but when we started changing our diet in the family for the sake of my daughter, I started exploring other options, and keto had become very popular at the time. So, and somebody I really admired, a guy by the name of Michael Hyatt, he was doing keto. And so I started doing keto, and I immediately lost 20 pounds, which was what about, I wasn't that overweight, but I had 20 pounds to lose. And it was
mhm,
wonderful. And keto worked very well for a while, but I was still counting carbs. I was still having stomach pain. I still felt I was addicted. Instead of, you know, Cokes and cookies, it was keto chocolate and Zevias. There's the addiction was still there, but it was just in the zero carb kind of addiction. And
mhm.
so I saw a couple of videos on carnivore, uh, including Dr. Hampton, Dr. Chafee, and I decided keto worked well for me. I've always loved meat. I'm going to give carnivore a try. And this was about 2.5 years ago, and it was like a light switch flipped on. I immediately had more energy. In addition to being a rabbi, I'm a writer, and I always tried to write 500 words a day. Once, uh, once I started carnivore, I could get out 1,000 words a day at the same expenditure of energy. It was truly, truly remarkable. And
Wow.
I started listening to classical music again. I'd been a musician. I played piano as a kid, and then I kinda dropped it like like things happen. And I don't know, maybe my brain was less inflamed. I had a yearning to listen to it again. I started lifting weights again. I hadn't lifted weights probably for about 10 years. So it really was an immediate restoration or growth in energy, and I just felt better. I had a clearer mind. I was calmer. I mean, I've always been a high energy guy, but the kind of energy that came from carnivore was a calmer energy. I was able to focus, was not as reactive. And so I immediately saw the benefits, and I know not a lot of people see the benefits immediately, but I really did, and my wife noticed it too, the family noticed it, and so I've been carnivore ever since then, and it's only become easier, I'm now, basically lion now. I just meat and water, and, um, and I've never felt better, so it's been truly a godsend to me.
Wow, that's incredible. So you said your daughter had celiac. Did you guys start the keto diet in an effort to try to correct what was wrong with her?
Yes, I did. Unfortunately, and I if we had known about keto and carnivore when she was really young, we would have started her on that, and it would have
Mhm,
been so helpful to her, but she's a teenage girl now. I can't control what she eats, and I don't wanna try. So she doesn't eat any bread, obviously, because celiac, she can't eat, any gluten. But
mhm,
she doesn't follow keto. Um, but I mean, this is part of my why. Had I known about keto and carnivore, had I been aware of the damage that grains can do to a person's body, had I been aware of that when she was young, everything would have been different. We would
mhm.
have given her much different food. We would have been aware. We would have we wouldn't have caused her so much pain before she had been diagnosed with celiac. It truly, it's the fact that so many kids grow up with a lot of stomach issues, a lot of physical issues because of the standard American diet makes me mad, makes me angry. And so part of why I've been, talking more about carnivore and really made it a central part of my life is because I do think, as I know you're involved with, it can truly help heal humanity. It's a great gift, and the more we know about it, the more people are aware of it. Just simple awareness, even if you're not gonna do it. Even, even if 10 years ago, maybe we wouldn't have gone full bore into carnivore, but would have at least realized that, uh, feeding our kids grains and sugars was a bad idea. I would have been so grateful to have the knowledge that I have now to have had it back then.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm right there with you. I mean, even as far back as my son's birth, right afterwards, I wanted him to be breastfed, but his mother did not, and I respected that decision. So we fed him formula, and he couldn't have cow's milk formula. So we had to start feeding him soy formula.
Yep.
And coincidentally, he had colic for 6 months and cried and screamed and screamed and screamed for 6 months, literally nonstop. It was horrible. There's nothing you can do as a parent, and the doctor's just like, this is the phase they're going through. Now we
Yeah.
know, we're essentially poisoning him,
Yes.
from birth, which is I wish I knew then what I know now because things would be so much more different.
It is. And it's it that I know exactly that type of situation. We fed our daughter this same one, soy formula. I remember buying it at Target, Simulac.
Yes,
And I remember
that's it.
and it 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 is so upsetting to think, and we were just trying to follow what we thought was right. And Unfortunately, we've all kind of been brainwashed in a way by the predominant culture, and
Mhm.
undoing that, truly, I mean, there's a as a parent of 2 teenage girls, I think there's a lot of problems with social media, but one of the great benefits of things like YouTube and Facebook is that you can find other people who are doing different things, good things outside the box, positive deviancy. You can find those communities. That's one of the great benefits. And that wasn't as widely available back then when she was a little kid.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So would you say that the benefits that you have on carnivore has lived up to your expectations of it?
Oh yeah, exceeded it, for sure. And one thing I've been talking about lately is the weight loss is great. I mean, everybody loves losing excess weight, and that's important, and it makes us feel good and feel healthy, and it is better for us in the long run. But I think that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the benefits of carnivore. Um, Truly, the greater benefits are the mental clarity, the kind of simplicity of it. I love not having to think about what I'm gonna eat. Uh, I love the kind of clarity it provides. I mean, I, uh, I was hoping to see you in person in Wisconsin, a few weeks ago, but I was visiting with members of my synagogue in Florida, and it was wonderful, and they had a couple of different parties for me and events, and I knew going in, this is what I can eat and this is what I can't eat, and it was a good feeling knowing that, having that conviction. knowing what was going to be good for my body and what would help me function at my maximum, having that clarity was quite good. And of course, some people I've had this, people say, "Well, you're a rabbi, you go to lots of events, you have Jewish holidays and food. How do you deal with, what people will think when you're just eating meat?" And you know what the truth is? People don't think about us as much as we think they think about us. I made it
True.
clear. I said to the host, I said, "Look, I only eat meat. It's in part of an elimination diet." And I said other foods really irritate my stomach. And they said, "Okay, great. We'll have brisket for you. We'll have this." They had some deli meats, which I don't love eating deli meats, but it was fine, for a temporary thing I'll have some deli meat. But they were totally understanding and didn't really. I mean, a couple people asked me about it, but it was not in an embarrassing way at all. So I think we can be proudly open about what we do, and people will respect that. People sometimes we worry too much about what other people think, when in reality, they're really not thinking much about us. They're thinking about themselves, like most people. So
That's
we
true.
can we can go in with strong convictions and not be worried about how other people will perceive it.
That's so true. You're able to have convictions now that you're on the carnivore diet. So, how was it pre carnivore when you tried to have a conviction in terms of food? What's the difference now?
Oh, I think that's such a great question because I think I had convictions, but they weren't really my own before carnivore. They were what other people had said. They were, "Oh, nuts are good for you. Almonds are really good for you. They have great proteins. You should eat more almonds." Okay. I happened to I did. I had almond butter. I thought I was being so healthy by having almond butter and almond milk, uh,
Right.
because that's what I had heard. So, I had a conviction, but it was just something that had been spoon-fed to me. It wasn't something that I really had felt in my bones, in my gut. Um, "Oh, grilled chicken is good for you. Don't have too many french fries, have a little bit, but, you know, grilled chicken, that's great." So I had these convictions, but they were just they were conventional. They weren't something I truly felt. And, as a rabbi, I'm a teacher, and one of the things you learn as a teacher is students remember things that they feel and that they know is true for themselves. And you can tell somebody something, but until they felt it and experienced it, it's really just theory. And so I kind
Mm.
of think my convictions from 5 or 6 years ago were just theory. They were just what I had been told. But with carnivore, it's what I feel. It's a true conviction because it's part of my being. I'm certain of it. Now, of course, gotta be humble. Can always learn new things. I mean, that's part of life. But right now, it's a deep conviction.
I love that. I agree with you 100%. My conviction now is based on my experience and not on what someone else has told me is the truth. I know what the truth is now.
That's right. That's right. And that
Absolutely.
gives us a certain strength. You know, that
Hmm.
that one of the things people say is, "Oh, isn't carnivore boring? You really eat no vegetables?" So, yeah, that's right. No vegetables. Nothing to be ashamed of, you know? It's kind of fun sometimes seeing people shocked. Um, but when you know the benefits, it's kinda easier to just be honest and open. There's not much to hide. Um and over time, I have found the people I work with, you kind of can even though they might think it's a little nutty, you kinda just you live with it, and there's sort of a grudging respect. As you're healthier and look better and feel better and have a high energy level, people do begin to see that it really does work.
Absolutely. So, have you run into this at restaurants yet where, the waiter or waitress says, "Okay, what's your order?" And you say, "Okay, I want the ribeye." And they go, "What sides do you want?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want any sides." They're like, "Okay, well, what do you want on your salad?" "I don't want a salad." And
Yep,
they just get more and more perplexed, like the programming that they've had is being broken and they don't know how to deal with it.
100%. Yeah, it is. It's so different. It's so different. Sometimes, my wife isn't fully carnivore, although she's definitely eats more meat. So if there's a side she really wants, I'll order that, and just give it to her. But yeah, most of the time, once in a while, you get a good waiter that'll give you like, some meat as a side. Uh, but rarely. That's outside their program. They probably make more money on the vegetable sides than they do on the steak because although they do
Mhm.
mark up the steak a lot, but vegetables are much cheaper.
Right.
They want you to consume more sides. Definitely. You know, I mean, of course, I'll go out when we're traveling and things like that, but it's so much more economical to make steaks at home. I mean, because you know
Mhm.
us, we're gonna eat much more steak than your typical, person who goes to a restaurant. So it's like I could eat 2 of these ribeyes,
Oh, yeah.
uh, and that adds up.
Yeah, and at $30 a pop,
Yeah,
at just a regular steakhouse, it's like, man, it
yeah.
just seems I don't know, it just seems obscene almost,
Yep.
and it doesn't taste as good.
No, no. Yeah,
Yep.
it's not as good quality meat, and it's not cooked the way we like to cook it, and yeah, for many people, steak is such a treat, but for us, it's well, the thing is, it always tastes good,
Mhm.
but we know how to cook it the way it works well. I mean, that's where a lot of fun is. I say carnivore is kind of boring, and I think food, in a sense, should be boring, but that doesn't mean it doesn't taste good, and it's not exciting to eat. It's very exciting to eat. It's just
Right.
not. We're not trying to, entertain with variety and spices and colors. We're just really enjoying and savoring the taste.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So, what does a typical day look like for you as far as eating?
So, it now I have pretty much since really doing Lion seriously, I've kinda gone to OMAD. I didn't think I was capable of it, I didn't I've never been someone who liked fasting. I work out, every day. I work out in the mornings, and so I'm active, and I never thought, long intermittent fasting would be something that I did. I always, you know, e e e for most of my carnivore life, would have lunch usually around noon and maybe dinner around 6 or so. I would intermittent fast from, like, 7 PM to noon the next day, and
Mhm.
oftentimes I would have some sort of snack in the middle of the day. I'd never fully given up snack. I would have a carnivore crisp. I mean, not a lot, maybe a carnivore bar and a carnivore crisp, and I kinda felt that was my eating window, sort of like 6, 7, 8 hours. But
Mhm.
for the last couple months, since really doing Lion, I kinda just fell into OMAD. And so I'll have a really big meal at about 2:30 or 3, and then basically be satiated for the rest of the day. And it's become a great pattern. I've definitely noticed, a calmer feeling, um, and, right after I eat, I'm a little tired, it's kinda like the lion, going, relaxing, this sort of after that big meal, but it's not like I'm done for the day. Obviously, there's still energy that comes in. Notice that
Mm.
sleep has improved with OMAD too. I mean, I've never been a great sleeper. Carnivore definitely made me a little bit better sleeper, but I still wake up multiple times. But on OMAD, um, I fall asleep really quickly. I've noticed that. So that's been good. I don't know if I'll continue with OMAD forever. I mean, it's right now it's been good, but I don't know. It's kind of what it has taught me, aside from the fact that I'm capable of it. It's taught me
Mhm.
that some of the ways that we've been programmed to eat are just kind of random and cultural, that you don't need to eat 3 meals a day at the same times. Sometimes people just eat out of boredom, and that's
Mhm.
not a healthy way. So kind of breaking that pattern where, "Oh, I don't have anything planned for this hour, so this is what I'm gonna eat." No, I'm gonna eat when I'm hungry, what I'm gonna eat, what nourishes my body and what needs to be eaten, and really no more, no less. So it kind of paradoxically, OMAD has given me a kind of freedom around eating that I wanted to achieve.
That's awesome. So you're basically are you eating intuitively or are you doing OMAD purposely?
It started intuitively, this is the dilemma. It started intuitively, but it has become purposeful, which I don't love because I don't wanna think about food very much. That's sort of the where I wanna get to, where I'm not
Mhm.
thinking about it, but I am thinking about it still. Uh, at least I'm thinking about it up until I do eat. After I eat, I don't think about it. So I'm kinda working on what is the pattern that I wanna fall into. Um, my guess is I'll probably go back to eating 2 meals a day, maybe at, like, 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock. So I'll keep a shorter eating window,
Mhm.
but not not feel like I have to wait till a certain time to eat. That's what I don't like about the pattern I've gotten into, is I feel like I'm waiting because I don't wanna eat too early because 'cause I'll get hungry again at night, and so I don't wanna overthink it. So I'm kind of still figuring out what is that ideal pattern. But I think part of it is because I am so active. On days when
Mhm.
I'm not active, it's very in then I eat intuitively. Like, I don't I because I don't really even get that hungry at all. I only feel hungry when I'm very active. When I'm not, I don't feel hungry, and until "Oh, 5 o'clock. Okay, I'll eat something." So,
Right.
um, I'd like to get back to a more intuitive eating, um, even though it's the intuitive eating that led me to this purposeful eating I am at now. That makes sense?
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'm somewhat intuitive, I guess, since I work from home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have a little bit of, sometimes I'll wait for a certain time and it's just a mental thing, really. I don't
Yeah.
even know why I do it. But
Yeah. It's a challenge because I truly think that our body gives us the best feedback, that we know when when we're on carnivore. It's not
Mhm.
when you're eating carbs, you can always eat more. "Oh, I'll have another piece of pie. Oh, I'll have another, Dorito."
Yep.
But meat, you do kind of self-regulate. However, it's still possible, and some people would disagree with this, but I do think it's still possible to overeat. Um, because sometimes we're eating too fast. Sometimes when you salt foods, that creates a certain kind of taste that you want more of. Um,
Mhm.
and so there is still um, there is still some potential people who have addictive personalities. Like I'm not a moderator. I'm an abstainer. So
Right.
if I get into something, I go in big, and so I do have to watch it a little bit. And one meal a day sort of forces you to watch it because you can't at a certain point, you can't eat anymore for real. Like, it's just and that's usually a pretty good amount. The actual danger a few times when I've been doing OMAD, I undereat, which I never undereated before in my life. But you sometimes just can't get enough food in
Mhm.
one sit. So, um it actually is a good for me, it's like I can truly, at this point, eat until I can't eat anymore, and I know that it's not going to cause me to feel sick later because I'm just eating this once, and my body will give me the truth when it's too much, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm trying to avoid overthinking it. I mean, one of my qualities as a human being, something I do is I tend to overthink things. I'm someone who lives in the head a lot. And so carnivores actually helped me get out of the head more. It's definitely made me more aware of my body. I mean, part of that is meditation too. I meditate regularly. Um, so that and I think carnivore complements that in a beautiful way, but I still can sometimes get too caught up in the head, and I think, um, I wanna get back to more intuitive eating times.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you will at some point for sure. So what challenges, if any, have you encountered with the carnivore diet?
Um, well, initially, there were the social challenges, of uh, kind of explaining it to people. And, I attend a lot of different social events and, um, parties as a rabbi, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, weddings, things like that. People are always offering me food. People are always, inviting me to dinners and things like that. So that that was somewhat of a challenge navigating that at the beginning. Now I'm pretty totally open about, what I need. Um, I think just sort of standing against the crowd can be a challenge. I mean, I've always been an independent thinker. I think most carnivores are. You kind of have to be someone who doesn't mind challenging the orthodoxy of the time, being a little unconventional if you're going to succeed in carnivore. But that doesn't mean it's always easy. So I think, my dad's a doctor. My grandpa was a doctor. And, I think my grandpa's passed away, but my dad is now very appreciative of it. But I come from a family, a culture that really values conventional medical advice. So going against that, I think was a little hard. Um, but again, now the more I learn, the more I realize it is the right approach, and the more I experience it myself. But at the beginning, that was certainly hard. Um, Other than that, I mean, I love the simplicity of it. I love as somebody who, as I said, I kinda am a very heady person. I live in my head, and having a simple diet actually gives me more room. It kind of the simpler life can be for me. It's kinda like you hear about people like Steve Jobs wore the same clothes every day. So did, President Obama did too, and obviously President Trump does, and Mark Zuckerberg. Some people that are very highly achieving people, they wanna minimize the they wanna simplify certain things in life so that they can devote themselves to the bigger, harder things. And in some ways, I think carnivore does that for our diet. It simplifies it. This is what we can eat. And that to me is just such a load off. It's a relief. Um, and so, that's been a tremendous benefit, and appreciating that. Yeah, really, that there aren't that many challenges anymore. Really. I mean, uh, that's part of the beauty of it. And you know what else? It's truly the people you meet, and I know you are so involved in the community, but the people who you connect with on Carnivore are just incredibly nice people, and giving and generous. I've written some books, and when you write a book, especially, one of my books in 2017 had a big publisher, and they gave me a nice advance to write this book, so it was a very high pressure, and so I needed
Mhm.
to get some blurbs, some big name endorsers for the book. And I mean, I emailed people, I called people, I pulled in every favor, people I know who I'd done favors for, and, connect me to this person. And I got so many no's. It was just it was depressing. People that I had done favors, and I noticed that culture. It was a different culture. It was sort of a competitive,
Mhm.
um I don't know, I can't come I mean, some people were wonderful, some people were, but the majority were very difficult and really just negative. They didn't really wanna help. Whereas I found the opposite way when I started my YouTube channel. You were so helpful. So many people have been just incredibly helpful and giving. And I think part of that is we all have a mission to help others, and we all really believe in this. But I also think the people who carnivore puts us in a positive state of mind. It
Mhm.
really it's uplifting. It lets you see the good in others. It makes you more open. And that to me, again, is one of the extraordinary benefits, more than weight loss, more than physical strength and energy, is just connecting with wonderful people. That's been a great gift.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. So
Yeah.
let's expand on that just a little bit in terms of Carnivore Zen. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Zen carnivore, yes.
What is the Carnivore Zen?
It's the peaceful feeling you get when you are carnivore, when you're not eating any carbs, not getting that inflammation, that agitation. I think it has something. I mean, one of the reasons I named the channel Zen Carnivore is that feeling, but also I I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. I don't want to be a channel that gets into all of that. There are already so many good people who do that. I wanted to really get into the mental health and spiritual benefits of carnivore. And I think one of the ways of capturing that is that phrase Zen carnivore. Because Zen, we all kind of sort of know Zen means a sense of peacefulness. In Hebrew
Mhm.
would be shalom, of groundedness, of calm,
Mhm.
of focus, um, of openness, you know, um, and that is the feeling I think that the carnivore way of eating has generated for me. And so I wanted to highlight that and talk about how that how that's happened to others as well. I noticed it. I noticed it first when I was first learning about carnivore and watching some of the videos of people like Dr. Chafee, and I noticed being somebody who speaks in public a lot, I watch people's techniques. He had such a calm, un unruffled way about him, and other carnivores had that too. And I thought, that's a tremendous positive. When you can be focused and knowledgeable and not get too upset when people challenge you or ask difficult questions. And I noticed other carnivores had that too. Now some carnivores are really high energy and, that's fine too. I mean, we all have different personalities, but I do think there is something. I think it's the inflammation, and I think it's ketosis, and I think it's the simplicity, but I don't know for sure. Again, but all of these factors really change the way we experience the world. And I've just in my own life, I've noticed that. I feel like I can listen to somebody for a longer time. I can sit, I'm a more patient listener. I get over disappointment. I applied for a fellowship that I was very excited about, and I thought I had it, and I didn't get it, and my wife was, so upset, and she thought, just okay, that's all right, it was sort of like next thing, and I honestly think carnivore way of eating has helped me with that. Um, so I want to focus on that for people. Now I'll do other stuff too. I do talk about the different nutritional elements, some fat and protein and what that does, but really the underlying goal I wanna see is how people can transform their mood, their state of mind, their spirit on carnivore.
I love that. I couldn't agree more, Evan. The Zen that I experience is just next level. And, I equate it to more like focus, I guess. At least for me, that's how I relate. I'm so much more focused with absolutely everything. Like you
Mm,
said, being able to listen more and pay attention and be in the moment, things like that is just next level for sure. So, in what ways has this diet impacted your connection with God?
I think the best way to think about it is I feel more connected to the natural world, and I see God present in the natural world. I think, this is a little bit intellectual. I mean, I've always on a very spiritual level, I've always felt a closeness. I've always felt uplifted and inspired in prayer and felt God's presence in everything. Like that's just sort of my outlook on life. So I think something I grew up with. My parents were like that. So, but I think I've come to a greater appreciation of how God created the world and human beings. I believe in evolution. I believe that, the nature. I'm not a religious fundamentalist in that way. But I think that human beings are part of nature, and as we call it, this is the proper human diet. W Carnivore restores us in a sense to nature and out of this artificial processed culture. And when we see ourselves as part of nature, we we do at least I feel that the whole creation is somewhat of a miracle, that human beings are much kinder than we often give ourselves credit for. We think we're in such a competitive, scarce, angry world, and I think a lot of that is just we get those feelings from the foods we eat. When we
Mm.
are eating the proper human diet and we are cognizant of the food we eat. I mean, vegans and vegetarians like to claim that they're so much better for the environment, they're so much more mindful of their food. It's the opposite. I buy my meat from a local, farm shop, that's from a farm in Wisconsin, and so, literally, almost all the meat I eat is from the same farm. I know exactly where my food comes from, and they know which cows they are. I would say I am much more mindful of my eating and much more attuned to nature than somebody who's eating from, you know, hundreds of different countries, you know, billions of bugs and little species killed in the creation of their food. They're not renourishing the earth. This is a regenerative farm. So
Mm.
I my appreciation of God's creation, of the natural world, and of my place in the natural world has deepened on carnivore. I mean, this is we're sort of getting into philosophical realms, and I almost called my channel the Carnivore Philosopher because I do think that there is there is so much more to this way of eating than just the physical part. That it can really broaden your worldview, um, and and so I that to me that's brought me closer to God and closer to nature.
I agree with you 100%. Prior to eating a carnivore diet, I didn't really care where my food came from as long as it was organic, right? And
Yeah,
whatever that means.
yeah.
And that was whatever it meant to, whoever was telling me what organic meant. But now, like you said, I try to buy meat from regenerative farms that are going to actually feed the soil and feed life while they're raising cattle. And, it's just a whole different outlook and philosophy, if you will, on where
True.
my food comes from, how I feel about everything, the connectedness, like you said, with the things here in the earthly realm. And yeah, it's, I'm almost repeating exactly everything you said.
I love learning about the agricultural revolution and just how damaging it was and how it brought up so many of the problems that we have in the world today. And, as a rabbi, I'm so attuned, I mean, we all are, but, people come to me with problems. I have to keep up with what's going on in the news, and there's just so much conflict. And if we really go deep down to the source, I do think a lot of that comes from the kind of world that agriculture created. It created states and empires and conflict because it created a way where we saw ourselves as dominant over the world. The soil is ours to plow and to destroy. And hunter gatherers, the more it just there was a certain kind of living in attunement with the world, and they were incredibly happy and healthy and egalitarian and independent. I mean, this is not just me. This is anthropologists who have studied this. Um,
Mhm.
and I think, obviously we can't go back to that culture now. We're living in such a technological modern world. There's no going backwards. But we can appreciate some of those qualities. And in some ways, carnivore is certain a kind of rewilding. We're rooting ourselves back in nature while living in the modern world and talking over, online. There's some great benefits, but
Mhm.
we can't forget how we are part of nature and how this proper human diet is the one that's proper and nourishing for us. It really and one of the things is you can't really know until you experience it. That is something you kinda have to take a little bit of a risk on carnivore. You have to do it for 30 days or 60 days and really see how that feels. Some people get it right after a week or 2. I mean, that's the truth. Although, you got diarrhea sometimes, so you gotta deal with that part.
Right.
But but, you do have to kind of experience that. I mean, I can talk about it, um, forever, but the experience is even more powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree
Yeah,
with that.
yeah,
Definitely. So you're a rabbi and you have a congregation.
yeah,
So how receptive are they to your diet, and have they inquired about it or anything like that?
yeah. It's this may be the trickiest part because I've I've got a lot of doctors in my synagogue, so
Mhm.
I can't be I can't be full bore, you know, criticizing the medical system nonstop. Which
Right.
I think most doctors are great people. The system is bad. The system is set up in a terrible way, but
Mhm.
most doctors go in for the right reasons. I mean, one of my best friends from college, they want to heal people, but it's difficult under the current system. So I can't be as fully, you know, overt a critic as I would like to be, and I
Right.
really can't I don't I'm sort of a libertarian politically. I don't like telling people what to do. One of the
Right.
great gifts we have is freedom, and people can eat whatever they want. That's their choice. But I kind of I think the way I've come to conclude is I will be very open and honest about what I eat and not try to hide it, not, I don't we bless the challah at the end of services. I don't eat any challah. We bless the wine and grape juice at the end of services. I don't drink any wine or grape juice. I just don't. And they know that. Um, so I think just being open about it and talking about it when I talk to people in person, I do tell them I don't plan on getting up and giving a sermon saying you all should become
Right.
carnivores because I just don't think that's what they hired me for. I
Right.
think they hired me to be a guide to Judaism and Jewish
Mhm.
teachings. I feel fine. I feel okay doing that on my YouTube channel and
Right.
doing that in sort of these activities, but I do respect the role of the synagogue and what my role is there. But when I talk to people in person and one-on-one, I will absolutely. And what I will do, and I even started to do this here and there, people come to me for counseling and sometimes there are issues of addiction and, um, just kind of anxiety and
Mhm.
real, both kids and adults. And I will never say this is what you have to do. And often I refer them to counselors, to psychologists. But I sometimes do say, one thing that's helped me with anxiety is is not eating carbs. And, I sometimes I don't go full into just eat meat, but I at least
Right.
say, "Try to cut out carbs from your diet." They promote anxiety. They make us agitated. And I think
Mhm.
people, at least when I've mentioned that, they've appreciated that. Um, so that I think slowly bringing it in at the right moments, being tactful, and respecting people's points of view, um, because, the other reason I think that is ultimately, people have to come to it on their own. People are never going to become carnivore because someone tells them to. Well, I guess,
Mhm.
maybe some people will. But because it's so countercultural, because it is going against the mainstream, you really have to feel that conviction. And that you have to feel it. And so I can make suggestions, but sort of pushing it and proselytizing it, that to me is not going to be effective.
Yeah, I don't think it would either. If I went to a church and they gave a sermon on what to eat, I would
Yeah.
probably think that was a little strange.
Yeah.
But if
I
they
mean,
had like a 101 class, a health 101 or something like that class that they could sign up for through the week, I might be more receptive to something like that. But
that's right. And being a role model. I mean, people it is there is something about being healthy. I mean, you interviewed Pastor Jimmy, who
Mhm.
because of you, I connected with him. I mean, he and I discussed that same issue, and, his church has certainly noticed his health since becoming
Right.
carnivore, and people in my synagogue have noticed as well. And, one thing that is almost a blessing of being a rabbi, I conduct a lot of funerals, and so I see people at the end of life and I see what truly makes life valuable. What do people remember? And it reminds me, it sort of reinforces that desire to stay healthy. That I
Mhm.
want to be able I wanna be able to move around with my grandkids when I'm in my 70s and 80s. I wanna be able to travel with my wife at that point. I don't wanna be, stuck in a nursing home, because I see what happens to people in those situations. Not that they're bad people, they're wonderful people, and, it can happen to anybody. We all know that, bad luck, bad thing, but I wanna do everything I can to stay healthy, and conducting so many funerals reminds me of that on at least a weekly basis, if not more.
Mhm.
So that's I think kind of a gift that I've been given as a rabbi.
What kind of advice would you have for someone that is considering a carnivore diet? Maybe their kid has celiac disease or some other similar issue. What would you say to that person?
Look outside the conventional medical advice. Um, you have to do your own research. Find some people that you trust online. One of the big questions you have to answer for yourself when it comes to diet is who to trust. And I mean, actually, that's even more than diet. That affects our finances. Who do you want to trust for investing your money? Who do you want to trust with all kinds of things, your children's education? But when it comes to diet, you have to kind of figure out who to trust. And then, of course, you have to verify for yourself. But don't just trust the advice that one doctor or one nutritionist gives you. Look around. I wouldn't have discovered keto or carnivore if I hadn't opened my mind and searched for different points of view. You know, and yes, you'll see some quacks out there too. There is some stuff you see on the internet that just makes no sense. And, you see people who are, just at least to me, certain outrageous things. And maybe carnivore sounds outrageous to some people, but it didn't. It didn't. I noticed the people who were talking about it really did know what they were talking about, and they looked healthy, and they had evidence to back it up, and it made intuitive sense. So go outside just the conventional recommendations. That's the first thing, and kind of know what to trust. And also find community. Talk to people. Reach out. I mean, I reached out to people when I started, and I'm so glad I did. Um, and you also kinda have to know yourself. This is Knowing yourself is really, really important. Are you a moderator? Can you can you, you know, can you stick with keto and not be tempted to go over on your carbs? Or are you an abstainer, or do you have to be really careful and just basically say, I'm just gonna eat meat? Know yourself. And that's hard too, because you have to be brutally honest with yourself. Sometimes we'd like to think of ourselves in one way, but we really are the other. So you just have to be brutally honest with yourself. Um, sometimes it's easier, I think, when someone has really, really bad problem. Like, I mean, we were talking earlier about, someone who really was in a terrible state of health and needed some drastic change. Sometimes that actually makes it a little easier to make the change. When you're in okay health and, you just wanna get better, that actually makes it a little harder. So you have to be honest with who you are as a person and why you're doing it. Know your why. This is something Pastor Jimmy said on your show, which I agree with. Know your why. Know why you're doing it. If you're gonna go into carnivore, know why. Is it because you want it to really be healthy in your old age? Is it because you wanna, physically, or you wanna get cut, you want your body to be in a certain way? Okay, that's okay too. Is it mental? For me, the mental health and the spirituality and the clarity, that to me has been the most appealing part. But know your why, and remember that. Remind yourself of that because, you know, we were joking around once, I think you and I were, about, you know, we love watching carnivore videos all the time, even though, 90% of what happens in videos I've heard before. I know this information, but I like to watch it over and over again for reinforcement because it's it's almost counter programming to what we hear in the wider world. We
Mhm.
need we need constant reinforcement. We need positive reinforcement. And so know yourself, know what you need, get that, find it. That's that's the best advice I think I can give.
I love that. I couldn't have said it better myself, Rabbi. So one other thing I wanted to ask you too was, well, first of all, let me jump to this. I noticed something that you said. You said the word bar mitzvah and bar mitzvah. And now this is bugging me because I literally thought that people that were saying bar mitzvah were saying it incorrectly because I seen it written down as bar mitzvah somewhere. And I thought, well, they're saying it wrong. It's not bar, it's ba. Now that I
There's
find out
two.
there's two different
There's two.
things.
Exactly. Bar mitzvah is male, bat mitzvah is female. If you want to just say gender neutral, you just say B mitzvah or b'nai mitzvah. That's
Okay.
sort of the gender neutral terminology, or plural if you want to say there's two b'nai mitzvah. And so, but yeah, it's just the masculine and the feminine.
Now I feel embarrassed.
Yeah. Have
Like
you ever done
literally decades
have you
I've
done
thought this.
photography at any bar bat mitzvahs over the years?
I have not because I mainly do sports. So
Okay.
yeah, that doesn't even come up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Oh my
there's a
goodness.
lot of them. That's in some ways, those are my weekends. As a rabbi, my schedule is the opposite of most people's. The weeks, I mean, they're busy if there's funerals and meetings, but the weekends are the real busy part. So and there's a lot of bar and bat mitzvahs.
Gotcha. I will commit that to memory now.
Yeah. Uh,
So you had also mentioned challah. What is that?
Challah is a special bread. It's egg bread. It's braided. It's made. So yeah, it's just bread with lots of eggs in it. Um, and it has sort of a yellowish color. And on the Sabbath, so on a Friday night, you, are supposed to eat challah, and bless it. So you bless it and then you have a piece. But,
Mhm.
now that you mention I'm talking about challah, so every rabbinical student, when you study to become a rabbi, you spend a year in Israel. So I was in
Wow.
Israel in 2001, 2002. It was a tough time. Um,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
every Friday afternoon, one of my friends had found this incredible little bakery. It was like underground that you could get the best challah in Jerusalem. And so I would go there about 2 or 3 o'clock on because they would close by like 5 o'clock on Friday. So I'd go there about 2 or 3 o'clock, and I would buy 4 challahs, and I get for friends and give it here and there. But the little bakery was maybe 3 or 4 blocks from my house. Between the bakery and my house, I would eat almost an entire challah on the walk. So I should have known back then that I was a carb addict. But
Right.
thinking back on that now, that 'cause most people wouldn't do that. Most people wouldn't,
Right.
but now it does stick in my memory, you know? It was so good. It is good. I mean, it's gooey, you know? Um, yeah, so that's challah. If I were a moderator I could still have a little piece, but I know myself, and we have to be honest with ourselves. I know myself that if I have one piece of challah, I'll probably have another. I say, "Well, I've already made a mistake tonight, might as well say make it a cheat night," and then go full bore. So I have to I'm very clear on that boundary.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I now know what I'll miss out on for the rest of my life
Yes.
because now I'm carnivore.
Yes. And you know what? It's worth it. What we get from carnivore is just so worth it. Yeah. Oh, another piece of advice. This saved me many times. We all get cravings, especially at the beginning, you know, and you see a box of cereal, or you see, even at the gym where I work out, like in the area in the little store, little restaurant attached to the gym, they have these cookies, and I would see that, and I would be, oh, I'm hungry for that. Whenever you get any cravings, just eat more meat. Eat more meat. Always have something available, and, so you're gonna almost eat a ton of meat at the very beginning, but that gets rid of the cravings. At least it did for me, and I know it does for everybody. So when I get a craving, it's a sign that I haven't eaten enough, and that worked for me. And again, that may be a little counterintuitive, especially for someone who's trying to lose weight, but it works.
I love that. That's great advice. And the more I go along in my journey, I feel like hunger signals are it's not your body looking for calories, it's your body looking for nutrients.
Yes.
So, yeah, and my friend Todd Bachmus, he told himself in the instance where he felt like a craving was coming on, or if he wanted a pizza or something like that, he would tell himself that he had to eat 6 eggs and so many slices of bacon. And then if he was still hungry for that pizza, he could have it. And he never was after he ate the eggs and bacon.
Brilliant. You're right. I mean, I think I don't know if I heard this from Dr. Chafee, but the body doesn't know what a calorie is. The body knows what nutrients are. We
Yep.
we create calories. I mean, in an ideal world, I mean, we still have a scale in the bathroom, but it's broken right now. I think the battery ran out, or so it was one of those digital scales. My wife was saying, "Oh, the battery ran out of scale. Don't you want to get a new one?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to." Because in an ideal world, you know, it doesn't it doesn't matter. We feed our body the nutrients that it needs, and we know what's healthy, and we can feel it. Did the hunter gatherers have scales? Yeah. So okay, again, we live in the modern world, so I mean, my wife insists we'll probably get us another scale. I'm not gonna. I'm not. I'm not. not trying to recreate a world that's gone, but it is something to
Right.
be mindful of and to know that it's the nutrients, as you said, it's the nutrients that matter, not the calories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, is there anything specific that your synagogue is doing in terms of outreach or anything special that you may want to shout out?
Um, not really. I mean, I think, obviously, anyone who keeps up with the news knows that it's been a difficult time for Israel and Palestine. And as a rabbi, I have a lot of friends. A lot of the books that I've written were for interfaith audiences. I wrote books about, what Christians need to know about the Jewishness of Jesus. I wrote a book about happiness and faith. And because of the relationships I've built with people of other faiths, I've had a lot of wonderful people reach out to me over the last few months since October 7th, the war going on. And, I'm grateful for it. And in fact, just in the carnivore community, I've met some really devout Christians who are, some very spiritual people who really
Hmm.
there are people in the carnivore community who really take their faith seriously, and that's wonderful. To me, it's it is there are similarities. I mean, carnivore isn't a religion, but you do have to have some strong convictions, and you do have to have some discipline, and those are some of the same things that, a life of faith require. So, I'm grateful for some of the connections I've made with people of faith, in our own carnivore community. And reach
That's
out to
awesome.
me. And if anyone, wants to talk about faith in a deeper way, I've been thinking about on my channel, I've been thinking about doing something on Fridays, like Faith-Filled Friday or something like that, where every Friday I talk about some spiritual element connected to carnivore. I've been playing around with that idea. So, yeah,
Well,
if anyone wants to connect around it, I'd be happy to.
yeah, don't toy around with it. Do it.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, we're carnivores, we do it,
That's
Just
right.
try it.
That's right.
That's yeah,
So,
don't try,
yeah,
do.
essentially, what faith is the hope for your soul, and carnivore is hope for your body.
That's good.
You
That's
know.
I like that phrase a lot. Hope for your body. It really is. Really, and it wasn't that isn't that Dr. Georgia Ede in her new book talks about says, "Hope is on the menu."
Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah,
that phrase. Hope is on the menu.
yeah,
That is so perfect.
yeah. I mean, I think that is a good when we were talking about this before we started recording about how the really carnivore may not become totally mainstream, but for
Hmm.
people who are really struggling with mental health issues and with physical issues, God willing, it becomes mainstream and people become more aware of it because it is so powerful. It is such an incredible tool of healing. Even if you even a doctor who even a doctor who may think carnivore has negative side effects, let's just say, they think that. They should at least have it in their toolkit for certain issues. I mean, some of the research that's been coming out about what carnivore can do for people with bipolar, if you are a psychiatrist and aren't at least conversant with that, you're doing a disservice to your patients. I mean, this is truly can be such a powerful tool, and I think we have to keep pushing that.
Absolutely. I love that. So, Evan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. So, where can everybody find you on social media?
I'm on Facebook a lot, so Evan, Moffic, and you can also I mean, I'm always available. People wanna email me, my email's on a YouTube site, I respond to messages, I'm around, I love uh, as I said, just the kind of people I've met in the carnivore community are just such giving and generous people, and I feel I wanna reciprocate that to people who reach out to me as well. So, yeah, YouTube is probably the best place to start. And also, there's the website zerocarbzen.com. That's been something that I've been working on, and it's a passion project. It doesn't make any money, but it's a great resource center that helped me in the early days, and that I've been adding content to now. So, yeah, those are all different places.
Awesome. And then, before we go, do you want to plug your books? I know you had multiple books.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you're interested in spirituality and religion, you can get on Amazon, just type in Moffic, Moffic. If I had to recommend one book, my favorite book that I've written is called The Happiness Prayer: Ancient Jewish Wisdom for the Best Way to Live Today. And it's about sort of the synthesis between faith and positive psychology, and how we can, so much of psychology is about making us less miserable. But I said, why should we focus on just making us less miserable? Focus on what leads to a happy and productive and flourishing human life. And I kind of that book goes through those teachings within Judaism that help us live a flourishing life.
Love that. Yeah, I'm ordering my copy
All
tonight.
right. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate this time that you spent with me today. I feel blessed. I feel like this is going to help so many people in their carnivore journey. And I can't wait to connect with you again, possibly do a live stream, do some other videos. So
Wonderful.
thanks so much,
Thanks,
Evan.
Adam. It's been a blessing.